in every negotiation, somebody's holding back, just exactly like what you said. And they're doing it out of defensiveness. They're scared. They've been exploited. I think it's an African saying: "Once bitten by a snake, you're scared of ropes." People double down on their fears, and they're afraid of people that they shouldn't be afraid of. Consequently, as a result, the last person, when you say, "What's your budget?" The last guy that asked them that, or somebody asked them that, and they answered it honestly, and then the person took every dime of their budget and didn't deliver. Mm-hmm. So, once they were bitten by a snake, they're scared of ropes. So what do we do? I mean, actually, these days, we're pivoting out of questions almost entirely.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going.
Right, I'm Chris Voss, author of Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It, and you're watching Behind the Brand with Bryan Elliott.
I want to talk maybe about some of the stories from your negotiation days, but also, you have that book over your shoulder, Never Split the Difference. I have to ask, explain why we should never split the difference, because it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, well, if you think splitting the difference is a great approach to life, then you are thoroughly impressed with the job that the U.S. Congress is doing. You think they are the example of great decision-making every step of the way. If you think splitting the difference is a good idea. If you think compromise is a good idea, then you love the U.S. Congress. If you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, vegan, you don't think the U.S. Congress is all that sharp. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. So what do you mean by never split the difference? What is that?
Well, what should we take away from that? Splitting the difference, in the first place, it's often a sucker move. Your counterpart who wants you to split the difference, there's an old thing, the person who offers to meet you in the middle is usually a poor judge of distance. So almost without exception, people who tell me privately, I split the difference all the time. Well, I asked for twice as much as I want, and I end up where I always wanted to be. But they felt like it was okay. All right, so deception by omission is still deception.
Right.
That was a lie. You got manipulated in a position with a lie. Okay, let's say you don't deceive by omission. Splitting the difference is a downward spiral because, and this is Nobel Prize winning behavioral economics theory, Danny Kahneman, 2002. A loss thinks twice as much as an equivalent gain. So if you and I are $10 apart and we decide to split the difference, we're each going to give in $5 because you're a human, because I'm a human. If a loss thinks twice as much as an equivalent gain, I'm going to feel like you hit me for 10, not 5. What's that going to do to our relationship?
I see.
It starts a downward spiral. I won't be happy until I've nailed you back for the equivalent of 10.
Right.
Now you felt stung by 10, and now I bang you for another 10. This is a downward spiral. The people that say, a great deal is when both people are unhappy. Is that the recipe for great marriage? Because a deal is going to extend for a period of time. You're married in business through the duration of the deal, which always has an implementation phase.
I see.
So you're starting to guarantee problems by splitting the difference.
Yeah, so this is about first kind of zooming out and seeing your business, your brand, the way you do business as a long-term relationship. Call it a marriage, metaphorically. This is not a one-night stand. You guys are in this forever. That's how we should be looking at doing business.
Yeah, and I got to tell you something. If you're ever in a one-night stand that was delightful, you want to do it again. So it's going to be a repeat relationship.
Yeah.
One of the famous Goldman Sachs executives from way back when, Gus Levy, a guy it was attributed to him, he used to say, greedy, yes, but long-term greedy. Mm-hmm. What's in your best interest long-term? It's not in your best interest long-term to be a real estate developer in New York City and have everybody so mad at you that no one will do anything with you, so that you have to leave town and relocate to Florida because they're so sick of you in the largest economy, the New York City financial, maybe it's not the center of the financial world, but it's darn close.
Yeah. Yeah. When people are rooting against you and hoping that you fail, you're doing it wrong.
That's not good for you long term. It's just not. There's no great example of anyone that is good for long term. Ultimately, the villagers surround the castle and burn you down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to some of the other techniques in addition to mirroring that you use to be successful in negotiating. But I'm the brand guy, right? This show is called Behind the Brand. I want to ask you a little bit about brand, what you think the definition of brand is, and then tell me what the Chris Voss brand is.
All right. So brand is what you stand for. What are your principles? What do people think of? What do you embody? What do you act? I believe in a lot of really solid principles. I haven't had the shirt made yet, but I do intend to have a shirt made that says "Deeply Flawed Human Being," because I believe in integrity. I believe in team first. We embody keeping our word. We embody learning, hard work. We call it blue collar. To me, blue collar is something I aspire to. Unfortunately, some people find it insulting. So that means, all right, so we don't line up. But that's what we stand for: hard work and integrity. We make a commitment, we mean it. We don't. If a meeting is scheduled, I want to be there a few minutes early. I want to literally over deliver on a regular basis. You don't need you're not going to get a complicated contract if you do business with us, because if you need a complicated contract to make sure the other side performs, then your negotiation in the first place was deeply flawed. So we have simple one-page contracts. We deliver. Mm-hmm. Somebody and we mean what we say. Like, you engage in Black Swan Group, first of all, you're going to have to give us a deposit, at least half up front. You're never getting that back. But we will always deliver. And so nobody has you engage with us for services. Now, if after we've delivered the services, you feel that what we gave you was undervalued, you know what? Then you're probably going to get your money back after we've delivered. If you're completely unhappy with us, we'll probably, and as a matter of fact, we have given people their money back.
What's the significance with the name Black Swan Group? What's the story behind that?
A Black Swan. It's inspired by Nassim Taleb's book, The Black Swan, from 2007. I think the subtitle was "The Impact of the Highly Improbable," and he was inspired by the metaphor of the black swan. And people said, you can never have a black swan. Then they discovered black swans, game changers, small little subtle things that change everything. The small, tiny little things that will veer you off into completely different outcomes. Mm-hmm. And I liked it because it was a dual metaphor for negotiation. For people who embody that, are black swans, we will do really subtle things that'll change everything. And, when I was thinking seriously about staying in the security space for a while, which we are not in. We don't do kidnappings. We don't do any security at all anymore. I thought it worked in that world as well. That's
cool. I relate. Swans are sort of indirectly part of my story. I feel I'm the ugly duckling,
as to be the beautiful swan, huh?
So
there you go.
That resonates with me a little bit.
Yeah.
Or not maybe grew into something beautiful as much as I found my people, let's say,
There's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Finding your people.
Yeah. So talk more about some of these techniques like mirroring that you're using that other people who are negotiating, like I am as a production company, with clients who are sandbagging all the time, because I'll always ask, what's important to you? Why are we doing this in the first place? Not not like what should we do, but like, why do this? What do you want to accomplish? And then I ask, what type of budget do you have to accomplish this goal? And is it congruent to your goals? Like, we want to conquer the world, but we've got $1,000 to do it. It's like, there's a little bit of imbalance here. Conquering the world might take a bigger budget. So, we deal with clients who are sandbagging all the time, who don't tell us all the facts, who might be holding back. What are some other techniques like mirroring that we could use to get?
Yeah, and so in every negotiation, somebody's holding back, just exactly like what you said. And they're doing it out of defensiveness. They're scared. They've been exploited. I think it's an African saying: once bitten by a snake, you're scared of ropes. Mm-hmm. People double down on their fears, and they're afraid of people that they shouldn't be afraid of. Consequently, as a result, the last person, when you say, "What's your budget?" The last guy that asked them that, or somebody asked them that, and they answered it honestly, and then the person took every dime of their budget and didn't deliver. Mm-hmm. So, once they were bitten by a snake, they're scared of ropes. So what do we do? I mean, actually, these days, we're pivoting out of questions almost entirely. We got a follow-on book that'll be out probably in May, where we've really refined our approach. You asked me what else besides mirrors. We're using labels as a way to get people talking. Label is just a verbal observation. It seems, it sounds, it looks. You seem, you sound, you look. Yeah. People saying to themselves, "Oh, I know about that. I heard about that." Fine. You haven't heard about it the way we're applying it, or the way that we're using it. Like, every word matters. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, people that say, "Well, I know labels. I've been using them for years." First of all, that answer tells me your mind is closed. If you say tonight, if you look at our performance, and you've got people saying weekly, "This deal will change my life," and if you say, "I know about labels, I've been using them for years," well, really, when was the last time you made a deal that changed your life? And they were like, "Wow, those life-changing deals don't come along every day." I got news for you. They do. Mm-hmm. It ain't the universe, it's you. Mm-hmm. So you're not stepping up your game. If somebody says something to you and their results are high, and you say, "I already know about that," you're telling me you're closed-minded. And by definition, if you're closed-minded, that means you've been deteriorating for quite some time, because negotiation is a performance skill. You don't get better by having a closed mind.
So can I unpack the labels a little bit more? So if I understand what a label is, like, I remember this experience. I was hosting a live event it was actually with Seth Godin, who's a mentor. He's since become a friend. And I was hosting this private event. And first of all, he didn't usually do that kind of event privately. I had negotiated, and we could tell, maybe this is a story for another day, but I had negotiated getting Seth out. I accomplished basically climbing Mount Everest. And then when I got him there, we're on stage, and I heard this loud crash. Mind you, there's 1,000 people in this huge auditorium, this beautiful theater. It's 15 minutes. We're behind the curtain, and he's about to go on stage. I hear this loud crash. The projector, which was like the size of a Volkswagen, had crashed on the stage because no one had secured it into like 5, 6, 8 pieces. And Seth looked at me and he said, "My entire presentation is based on like 180 slides at, 1 or 2 a second. I don't know if I could do this." And I think I said, "You look frustrated." Like, I tried to put a label to try and flesh out like how he was feeling. I didn't want to say "you look terrified," because I being the professional that he is, I didn't think he was terrified. I think he was frustrated. At least that was my guess. Uh-huh. So I tried to draw out that emotion, and he did express to me that he was frustrated, anxious, a little bit concerned. Fortunately, the crew, had another one of those projectors up in the attic, and we remedied it. No one was the wiser. The presentation went off without a hitch. But it reminds me, of labels. So if we know what they are, like when do we use them so that it's not condescending or because I think maybe I've done this with my wife. Oh, you look disappointed or something. Well, of course I'm disappointed, you idiot. You just did something really stupid. Like when do we use these labels so that it doesn't get thrown back in our face?
Yeah, well, empathy is the other side's perspective. Tactical empathy, understanding how the brain works, the other side's perspective. Now, the better label with Seth would have been, "You look terrified." That
Okay.
would be normal.
Oh, so like to go deep, because I went shallow.
On negatives, you got to overdo it. You got to go deep. Because what happens if you overdo a negative, it doesn't plant it, it inoculates from it. And that terrifies people until they see it, until they hear it and watch it work its magic.
Okay.
Now with your bride, empathy is again the other side's perspective. And now I did the same thing. There is one ex Mrs. Voss, and so in a conversation with the ex Mrs. Voss one day, she was very angry. It was a topic that was what ultimately was the biggest issue between the two of us. And I said, "You sound angry," and she blew up. I mean, she might as well burst in a flame. And I remember thinking at the time, I say you sound angry on a hotline all the time. And it works. What's going wrong here? Must not work. No, I was the idiot. It would be like if I slapped her in the face and I would have said, "It looks like your face hurts." Of course it hurts, you idiot. You just slapped me in the face.
You state the obvious. Okay.
Well, it's not the obvious. I didn't take any responsibility for it. With the bride, it's like, clearly I've made you angry. That's the first time when their perspective is that you're the asshole.
Oh, okay.
And that's where you bring it in. Now, we don't think that we're the jerk in that scenario.
Yes. The light bulb just went on.
Empathy is not our perspective. Empathy is their perspective.
Yes. I know what this is.
Yeah, the word accuracy is not there.
Well, has this ever happened to you? Someone has clearly done something to you, either deliberate or by accident, and
right.
their apology, which is really a pseudo apology, is, "I'm sorry you feel that way."
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of what you're saying here is the mistake I made, and maybe it sounds like you made, is, "I'm sorry you feel that way," when in fact I should have taken responsibility and said, "I did this. I'm really sorry about that." Instead of stating the obvious. Is that what you're saying?
It's really close. I mean, and you get into a really interesting area on the fake apologies, and how do we know about a fake apology? Because we got suckered by it at one point in time, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the other person's perspective is that you're at fault. And us fearing to even utter recognition of that is, you could even say, "You think I made you angry." That would be better than "You sound angry." You feel I made you angry. And the closer someone is to us, the more we feel their perspective is skewed, and then consequently, the less we want to articulate it.
Okay.
Which is really this crazy unfairness if you give it some thought.
So let's put it into some practical application. Okay, so I'm a production company. I'm pitching, and I asked the client, what kind of budget have you got for this? Let's say it's a TV commercial. Okay, we sort of all have a roundabout idea what a TV commercial might cost, and they say
they're going to duck that. It used to be a good question. It's a really bad question now.
Right, but so how do I guess what I'm getting is, how do I avoid being offended by the answer? So let's say, in my mind, I think it's going to cost $25,000, $50,000. And they say, "I'd be willing to pay $5,000 for that."
Right.
Gasp, how insulting. I think that happens a lot. And maybe it's hard for me to hide my expressions. I can compartmentalize feelings, but it's hard not to guess how I'm feeling based on my face. What should we do in that instance?
Yeah, perfect. Follow on. Follow on's going to be a label. All right. So what can you label that's true unequivocally true based on their response.
Well, let's role play it. Okay.
Sure.
So I've got a budget.
Which one are you?
I'm the production company. You're my client.
Okay.
So I think this project sounds like, it's going to cost, based on the scope of work, about $25,000.
Oh, are you crazy? I mean, were you a pirate? No, it's way too high. It's an inflated price. You're greedy.
I'm not greedy, and I'm not crazy. Like, this is what it costs. This is, you've asked me to. I mean, it sounds like you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
That's the other fact. All right, I'm going to ask you. You be the client.
Okay.
What's your budget? What have you got set aside for this project?
Well, I don't know.
Do you want me to ask what it is? You want me to tell you what it costs?
Ask me what it costs.
Okay. Ask what's your budget, or tell you what it costs.
Yeah, tell me what it costs.
All right. So for what you guys are looking for, this is going to cost you $25,000.
$25,000. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I know somebody who could probably do it for like $5,000. Just as good. Probably faster.
Sounds to me like the value's just not there for you.
Well, I called you because I think you have a good reputation, and I like the quality of your work. I've seen what you've done, but I don't think it's really going to cost $25,000. Come on. I mean.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you don't have that much at stake.
Well, there's tons at stake. We've got to change the game. We've got to crush our competitor into little bits. I mean, it's necessary. It's very important.
All right. So, but then, why me? Why are you talking to me?
Well, we like what you've done. We like your reputation. We like your work. We like your style. People have said great things about you. You come highly recommended.
So, you like the product that we put out. You like our style. You like our reputation. And you got tons at stake. And you don't want to pay me. How does all that add up?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. And we can end the scene. You hope that it works out that way.
Well, it does, as a matter of fact. Now, one of two things. One thing's going to happen. There were key points in what we talked about along the line, which you kind of missed. But that's the point. You don't want the other side to see it.
Okay.
Now, in any business deal, in any interaction, there's a favorite and a fool. And if you don't know who the fool in the game is, then it's you. All right, but what does that mean? If you're the favorite, you should never cut your price.
So the favorite is the one that's expected to win, or maybe it's
So they want to go with.
It's the top person.
If you look at the way human beings make decisions, do not underestimate the favorite and the fool, because 20% of the time, at least, you're the fool.
Okay.
Which also means you got no business cutting your price.
Right.
The only thing that you're there for is to give them a lower price for them to try to drive it down on the favorite. So you're the rat. Some people call that the rabbit. The rabbit is, you're going to run, but you ain't going to win.
Okay.
It was already a rigged game. Now, how do I find out if I'm the favorite or the fool? I ask you, why me?
Right.
Now, if I'm the favorite, you're going to tell me. That's a surgical psychological strike. And it's going to get me one of two answers all along. Either you'll tell me why I'm the favorite, or you'll immediately throw it back on me. Well, that's up to you. I don't know. Tell me. Since it's a psychological surgical strike, when you throw it back on me, I'm the fool. Again, why am I cutting my price if I'm the fool? I'm not going to do that. So I gotta throw a diagnostic in the conversation to find out whether or not I'm the favorite or the fool. Now, if I'm the favorite, you could be distracted over price because there are lower prices. But if you wanted them, you'd be talking to them.
Right.
You're talking to me.
Yeah, no, it's a super good point. And again, another light bulb moment for me personally. I think the favorite or the fool, it's critical to really flesh out what's valuable to them. Because once you get them to talk about why you, the answer might be you're young, you're dispensable, you have no experience, and therefore, I'm really after, I'm super price sensitive. And you're the person that I think can get me this at the lowest price. Or it's the opposite. J-Lo texted me and said that you're the guy. And, based on your reputation working with J-Lo, that's who I want to do my project. And so, with assumptions that J-Lo has got budget, it might not be about price anymore. It might be about looking like J-Lo or, some sort of higher quality standard that's not about price. Is that what you're saying?
You got to find out about what's really at stake, what they really value.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the day, I mean, everybody's worried about their budget until you say this to them. A professional is expensive. An amateur costs a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And then people begin to remember, like, I could invent this wheel myself. Yeah, you can. It's going to take you 10 years. And it's going to cost you 10 times what it costs to hire me.
Right.
And that's when you get into real serious discussions about what would results really do for you? What would they really do for you? And then if you're a professional who over-delivers, then whatever your price is, because you over-deliver, will always be a bargain. And Black Swan Group, we over-deliver. Our prices are high. Now, if you don't have enough at stake right now, for example, if you want me to coach you and you don't have enough at stake, I'm going to turn you on to every free thing we have. And then in a year, you're going to have enough at stake where you're going to need me to coach you because you can't afford me now.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going.
All right, so through these doors is the actual live set. So let's go. Check it out.
But like I say, man, always say.
This is a hot set. I know they just wrapped one pitch, so we can go in and make a little bit of noise, but this is where all the magic happens. Check this out. So, can you see me, or is it too dark? So this is the live set over here. You have more than 26 cameras placed all over the place. There's jibs and cranes. And I would assume there's a stage director calling all the cameras, kind of like an NFL coach calls the plays, but like he's saying camera 1 go, camera 2 go. You have all the editing happening over here with the soundboards and the mixers. Down this hallway is more of the craft services, but if you flip around real fast. Good job, buddy.
All right, Lori.
So that was Lori. She did a great job kind of swooping in and stealing Barbara's deal. But down that hallway is where craft services is, and a lot of people are waiting. The entourage or the fans of either the people pitching or there's other people attending. And those people are all sitting down there too, watching on monitors. So it's really fun to kind of watch the show from behind the scenes too. It's a very unique way of watching the show, but that was like 45, almost an hour pitch that will be edited down to about 7 minutes. But still, you're sort of, very riveted to the screen. It's very compelling and it's fun to watch. So Amazing. Very cool.
Appearance, I can stand on skill alone, but I'm a package deal. I can write the whole song and rap for real. I got my head in the cloud with a pun intended. I don't need to see nobody, I don't want no visits. Introverted, I just flirt with the music. Small circles, how I choose it. Stay away from squares, they the one that look like a L7. I've been doing this since I was 11, and the shit gets real.